Our special series on cannabis in Illinois. Recreational marijuana becomes legal here on January 1st.
Dispensaries will sell products that come in all forms, including edibles. They can pack a powerful punch if customers don't pay attention to the dose. NBC5's Phil Rogers got a look in Colorado, where legal marijuana began 5 years ago.
Say the word marijuana, and this is probably the image that pops into your head. But when legalized cannabis arrives in Illinois January 1st, you'll also see things like this, and this, and this. Resins, waxes, and especially edibles, packaged in ways which don't look like drugs at all.
Actually, what we saw was a spike in emergency department visits.
Denver emergency doctor Andrew Monty says while many of those were tourists taking advantage of first-time ever legal weed, the most common patients are regular, even daily users.
The most common reason we see patients coming to the emergency department is actually a syndrome called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. So that's a cyclic vomiting syndrome that occurs when patients actually use heavily. So they use every day.
This study, which Dr. Monty co-authored, shows that in Colorado, while smokable marijuana is still by far the most frequent method of use, edibles have led to an unusually high number of emergency room visits.
We know that edibles are associated with a 30-fold increased risk of actually ending up in an emergency department.
There's also the issue of dosing. Cookies, and especially candies like these chocolate bars, can contain multiple doses of THC, but some users don't always get that message.
I challenge you to eat a tenth of a cookie.
Because of all these issues, 5 years in, some critics in Colorado are especially concerned about children.
There's a normalization going on with kids. Perception of harm is going down.
The state of Colorado says over 19% of high school students report they use marijuana, roughly even with the national average. But the organization Smart Colorado worries about the many forms available to kids.
They don't perceive some of these products as being harmful when some of them are much more harmful than the marijuana in the past.
Her group calls those the unintended consequences of legal marijuana. At a recent cannabis convention here in Chicago, vendors like Scott Burns were displaying difficult-to-open child-resistant packaging, which will be required here in Illinois.
The way you pull on it, and now I can get it open.
To help prevent those unintended dangers.
And that's gummy worms. Children could think that's for them.
Absolutely.
One other thing. Cannabis today is not the pot grown in dorm room closets in the 70s. Modern science has produced a much more powerful plant.
When you and I were kids, right, Phil, the percentage of THC was in the single percentages, 1 to 2%. But now, actually, the percentage of THC is actually average of about 20% here in Colorado.
Here in Illinois, as in Colorado, a typical dose of THC in edibles will be 10 milligrams. And Illinois dispensaries will be required to carry warning signs, cautioning that infused items can take up to 2 hours to take effect. And users should review dosages before consuming any edible products. Phil Rogers, NBC5 News.
We're learning a lot. Our thanks to Phil.